Grief. Love with no place to go, I've heard it called, and I like that perspective. It's impossible to love without eventually grieving. That's the cost of forming such a deep bond with someone else. Romance anime tend to focus more on love than grief, and I think that that's because grief is often what happens when nothing else can be done. It can be a crushing place to be, alone in the absence of the love that used to be present. Frieren is a show that I am blown away by each time I revisit it. More than just being great, I hope that it ends up being important to the anime landscape and to the fantasy genre as a whole. Every level of execution is top tier in my opinion. But where the show stands out most to me is not the wicked fight sequences or the wonderful world building. It's the relationship between Frieren and Himmel. We barely get to spend any time with them together in life, but that doesn't mean their relationship ends there. Rather, the backbone of the entire anime is how Frieren's memories intersect with her new journey. They help her grow and change, but they also change themselves. In the process, we begin to see not just what love is, but a redefining of what grief has to mean. Let's talk about it. Right from the start, Frieren is defined by grief. The pilot episode centers around the hero's party returning from defeating the Demon King, and then Frieren returning only at the very end of Himmel's life. The 50 years that passed feel like nothing to her, but in the blink of an eye, one of her dearest friends has passed away. In this sense, Frieren is introduced through the lens of regret. Only after Himmel has died does she realize how much she cared about him. This form of grief is familiar to us. Everything suddenly seems much more tenuous, and Frieren is noticing how much older the rest of her party seems now. The tragedy of love is that no amount of time will ever feel like enough, and Frieren is sort of an exaggerated form of this. The beauty of episode 1 is that rather than drowning her in her grief, it ends with the introduction of Fern, the character that will help to change Frieren's entire perspective on love and loss. So if that first episode presents grief in a common way, everything that follows in season 1 is about reinventing it. Himmel's death is the starting point for Frieren's emotional awakening, the grief driving her to embrace the world around her more actively. The memories of her travels with the hero's party are the main points of comparison for her new journey. They provide guidance for new trials and interpersonal dynamics, but they also come to be more appreciated by Frieren with her new experiences. Her loves for her old and new friends grow simultaneously, each lifting up the other. At the center of this is Himmel. Himmel so clearly loved Frieren. We see that in every memory she has of the two of them together. Even though she doesn't understand his affections at the time, that doesn't stop him from working to show his love for her. I think that he does this for a few different reasons. Part of it has to do with his own sense of fulfillment. Even if she may never come to love him back, what sort of life is it to keep that bottled up forever? It's not like he's pushing his affections onto her, but he finds small ways to show that he cares. I'm sure another reason he does this is the hope that maybe Frieren would change her mind, come to love him back while he's still alive. This may have been a fool's errand, but that hope is nothing if not human. I like to imagine, too, that Himmel did these things in the hopes that Frieren may come to understand them long after he's passed, just as she does in the show. For as wise as she is, Frieren is almost entirely unfamiliar with emotions when she and Himmel first meet. Just as he helped her to understand them in life, I can see Himmel hoping that his love for her will come to be appreciated later. When Frieren eventually arrives at the place where souls rest and meets him again, I think that her mere presence there will tell Himmel all that he needs to know about how she's changed. Frieren's love for Himmel is even more interesting to examine in some ways. Out of that initial grief comes introspection and an opening of her heart to others. This new outlook also allows Frieren to look back on her past with Himmel differently. The effect is truly unique, where we get to see Frieren fall in love with Himmel slowly, after he has already died. With each memory that she recalls along her new journey, she realizes the depth of his love for her, and how much she loves him now. She may not have understood at the time, but the things that Himmel did for her mattered to her too. It may not have been as defined as love or appreciation, but she cared for him. She wouldn't have held on to the ring he gave her as long as she did if not. Getting to see this development come out of grief is extremely moving, a hopeful point of view that says that even if loved ones may pass away, that doesn't mean that they leave us forever. Our relationship to them doesn't have to end there, and loving them still isn't a worthless endeavor. Himmel isn't the only touchpoint Frieren has with grief. Being a 1,000-year-old elf, she has known plenty of people that have grown old and died. We come across many of them through her travels, both alive and in memory. Flam comes first to mind, and she falls in many of the same baskets as Himmel. When she was still alive, Frieren was not interested in understanding feelings. Flam was merely her teacher, and she could even be quite cold towards her. But just like Himmel understood that some things will only come to be appreciated later, Flam is happy to plant the seeds of her love quietly. When Frieren relies on those teachings later to defeat powerful opponents, she also finally understands that love. Memory is not a passive thing in Frieren. It shapes the present of our protagonists at every turn. It tracks too then that grief would not be passive. It affects the very essence of our character. That means sadness, yes, but also wisdom, perspective, and even the chance to love again. Frieren is entirely a show about memory. At every turn, the past and the present are working in tandem in this anime, with our elf protagonist acting as their meeting point. It's also a show about grief, aging, and the act of time passing in general. The tragedy of Frieren is that she didn't get to appreciate her old party when they were all alive and together. But that isn't the end of the story. Figuratively and literally, it's just the starting point. Grief is born out of love, and Frieren asserts that the reverse can also be true. Even when a loved one has passed, we will continue to grow and change. Our love for them will necessarily change too. But that's not a bad thing. In fact, new experiences may cause us to appreciate those loved ones more than ever. Himmel and Frieren's relationship is a prime example of this, a testament to the enduring power of love that I find beautiful and also bittersweet.
Feel you
stray from my reverie. Love, it never seems so simple, so wiseless, so complex. Can't hold on to any ripples. I long to hear your steps. I could cry every single night away from you. I might die every little time the wound feels new. Wanted enough, all of your love. Time slipped away, and push came to shove. The distance grows with every moment alone. And that ends this week's episode of Love and Anime. I hope you enjoyed the video and the AMV. I actually made this one myself. I love Somber's work and have a new AMV in the lab with him as we speak, but I also wanted to take a shot at it for some fun. The song will be out on streaming platforms soon, and I'll put up the AMV separately when that happens. If you enjoyed, liking and subscribing helps a ton, as does hitting the hype button on the mobile app. As always, I'm SlamAnime, and have a great rest of your day.